I'm spending 3 days at the Special Forces Underwater Operations School in Key West with Go Army to see what it's like to train as an Army soldier. Special Forces Underwater Operations involve U.S. Army Special Forces using closed-circuit diving techniques for covert infiltration and various missions.
We run 4 different courses: our combat diver qualification course, combat dive supervisor course, our diver medical technician course, and then water infiltration course. You come here for 6 weeks, your skills, your ability to dive from point A to point B, completely unseen, unheard.
Now, we are only going through a fraction of what normal U.S. Army soldiers have to endure here, but we are definitely still being put to the test, starting off with an early morning physical test. This consisted of hand release push-ups, plank, pull-ups, and a 2-mile run. Starting with the push-up test, I knew I was going to have a hard time with this, but I didn't realize how much I would struggle. I don't know if it was the nerves, but they were trying to make it as easy as possible, and I was still having a really hard time.
60. Don't strain yourself.
I don't know if I can do another. Sorry,
No worries. I don't think these guys are going to catch you at 60. So.
This is embarrassing.
Get ready. Begin.
I'm trying to redeem myself with a plank from the push-ups. Ready?
Dude, you're not even struggling. Just go for it.
You only have like 30 more seconds. Nice. 3, 2. All right, good job, you guys. Are you ready?
No.
Up. One. Down.
Up, bar.
Up. Down. Down. Up. 5.
Down. Yes.
Down. Down. 7.
I don't know if that counts.
Down. Up.
Down. All right. Dismount.
Down.
Nice.
Woo!
Good job.
Up.
12.
Down.
Time for the 2-mile run. I feel like after the pull-ups, I got this one. They're stretching, but I don't normally stretch. Should I just start stretching?
Get ready. Begin.
He's running so fast. On the brighter side, look at the sunrise I get to watch. Woo!
You got it, Julie.
You're killing it. We're about a mile down.
Almost there.
The ambulance just offered me a ride, but we're gonna do this the fair and square way, even if we're lost. While I only passed 2 of the 4 fitness test requirements, there was no time to harp on it because we had to get straight into the pool. And I had no idea how much harder it was gonna get.
We typically will see most of the panic or failures in the pool. This morning we just did the PT test. So that tests your fitness levels, which gives us a good indicator of how you're going to perform in the pool and in the ocean. Before we get in the pool, we need to go over some of the gear that we're going to issue you today. You can't be in the water in the ocean without a good set of fins. This is just a generic mask that we give the students. We also make sure that we have a good weight belt so that they can stay subsurface. This is our MSV, Maritime Surface Swim Vest. For this is basically like a life jacket. It's a little bit old school, but it works. With these, we have CO2 cartridges activated for safety if you needed for it to inflate, become a flotation device.
I carry a lot of conch shells. I feel like similar.
Okay.
Trying on the weight belt. It feels heavy already. I'm gonna just sink. And once we were familiar with our gear, we hopped right into the pool for the 25 and 50 meter subsurface swims. We did the 25 meter subsurface swim 3 times, and this was just to get used to controlling our breath and our swimming techniques. Although I'm used to holding a GoPro while I'm out in the water, I quickly learned that this was not gonna help me with my technique for the 50 meter swim. After some helpful tips, we did our 2nd and 3rd 25 meter swim, and I could instantly see the results. There was no time to rest because we were going straight into the 50 meter swim, and I chose to be the first one to go. Now, it was here that I realized there's a difference between being comfortable in the water and being comfortable in the water under high stress situations, which is exactly what they're trying to teach you at the school. Because while I was fine and I hadn't even been underwater for that long, I couldn't stop thinking about how I needed to breathe. I was over halfway completed, but I gave up as soon as I got to the wall because all I could think was that I had to get back. It really showed me how much of a mental game this all is. I didn't do it. I think I just got in my head. They said that I was just going really slow because that's what we were doing over here. I needed to kind of swim forcefully so I could get there faster and get back.
You gonna try again?
I think I may. It's just all in your head though. I was getting to the edge and I'm like, well, I'm only at the edge. I don't know how I'm gonna be able to make it back. I just wish I could do it. And with some helpful tips from all of the incredible instructors, I decided to give it another go. I was told I needed to move faster, but move my legs less. So basically all my power had to be coming from my arms. The more you move your whole body, the more oxygen you're burning through your muscles. So you want to be as quick and strong as you can while staying very still. However, at this point, I was definitely too in my head and I didn't even make it as far, which was so disappointing for me. No time to sulk though, because we're moving on to our next event, which is drown proofing. Your arms and your feet get restricted, and then they put you through a series of exercises, which includes bobbing, traveling, floating, a front flip, and a back flip.
And is going to be prepared to enter the water. He's going to look left, look right, look center, and then enter the water. On enter the water, he jumps in, he starts his bows. He's going to turn around and face me. That's when the 2-minute timer begins.
Wow. He's exhaling at a consistent rate so that his body will sink. If you don't exhale enough, you won't sink. If you exhale too much, you'll lose too much air. I mean, you'll still sink, but it might be a little bit more uncomfortable. Get your back towards the top of the water. That's where your lungs are. That's your life jacket.
Before you know it, we were restricted and thrown straight into the water. I actually wasn't nervous at all and I was really excited to try this. And then as soon as I was in the water sinking and couldn't swim for myself, I started to panic. So I took a second to collect myself and then we started our bobs. It was really hard to feel out how much air you actually had to let out to sink to the bottom. And then once you're at the bottom, you have to push pretty hard to get yourself back up or else you're just gonna be stuck there. It was another big mental test to realize that you're not in any danger and if you just calm down, it's actually a pretty easy thing to do. After a second, I was really getting the hang of it. Of course, as soon as you're feeling good, they have to switch it up so you're straight into a float. Compared to everything we had been doing the whole day, the float actually felt very comfortable for me. Obviously, when you try to take a breath and let out your air, you start to sink. But for me, it was pretty easy to control. I think that's when feeling comfortable in the water came in to help me. And from the float, we went straight into traveling. This is basically just being able to move. And personally, it felt exactly what it felt like to play mermaids as a kid. So I feel like I had this under control. However, a note I got later was that I was going too fast so that when I came back to my bobs, I was so out of breath and it was really hard to control those steady motions. After a few recovery bobs, it was time for the front flip and the back flip. For my front flip, I did not let out enough air, so I floated straight to the top. And you're supposed to stay on the ground so that you can push back off and come up for your bob. But we tried again for the back flip. This time, since I knew what I was doing wrong, I am very proud of the back flip I was able to do. I will be showing this video to all my friends. Next event is the clump test, or at least that's what I'm going to call it because I don't know the name. But basically, they call this 20-pound weight a clump. Someone has to go down to the bottom, retrieve the clump, and then you pass the clump in a circle while treading water. I'm very confident in my ability to tread water for a long amount of time. I was very humbled when handed a 20-pound weight on top of that. And I was even more humbled when I found out that typically they're wearing 16-pound weight belts on top of this. Well, biggest round. In my second round, I started to learn my biggest takeaway from this entire experience, which is that this school's entire focus is on team building. My teammates were able to obviously see where I was struggling and it helped me along the way. And at a time when I felt embarrassed, I felt so supported. Lastly, we geared up for the final event of the day where we were taught the combat side stroke, which is a variation of side stroke that was developed to stay unseen, yet highly effective. Once we got the technique down, we lined up and we had to do the side stroke weighted for 7 straight minutes, which you wouldn't think is hard, but it is absolutely exhausting. The form is so important because your head has to stay parallel to your arm or else the rest of your body will sink down. And if the first 7-minute session wasn't enough, we had to do a second session of 7 straight minutes. And with no break in between, we had to flood our mask with water and do flutter kicks.
1, 2, 3, 9. 1, 2, 3, 0. 1, 2, 3, 1. 1, 2, 3, 2.
We just wrapped up today with some flutter kicks and our mask was fully filled with water. You couldn't see anything. It was like burning into your nose, especially as you were laying down. Those were hard. The stroke was really hard to do for 7 minutes and weighted, and I only have 6 pounds. You're supposed to have 16 pounds. I can't even imagine. Pretty tough day, but excited to get out on the boat tomorrow. I have so much respect for every single thing we did because we just did a tiny amount of even just the requirement of what everyone else has to do. So absolutely insane. On day 2, we were focusing on the Zodiac boat. We had to get our gear ready to go and then we were back in the pool.
These watercraft are what we use for tactical infill and entries. Obviously the color, they're black, so that gives us a little bit of advantage at nighttime. They're very low silhouette, so they're low in the water column so that we don't stand out too much. And they have pretty good speed. You can put different various types of motors on them. Most of the motors we use are submersible so that you can actually use different fuels. You can actually get them underwater and cache them subsurface. I also carry a heavy load. So we can put multiple troops in there with lots of equipment and go miles and miles with these to our infill locations.
Our first event was recovering a capsized Zodiac boat. 2 people climb on the boat while 1 person stays in the water, and you grab the recovery line and trust all your weight to lean back as the other person flips onto the top. This way they're able to help people with heavy gear back onto the boat. Once we mastered that, we moved on to a rehearsal of fast casting.
How do we get our divers that are on the boat into the water without being detected at a fast pace?
And finally, it was time to carry the Zodiac boats on over to the dock and get into the water.
And now we're going to be putting motors on, and we're going to get familiar with using those motors and tiller motor controls. So we're going to be taking these boats all the way down to another beach location that we use for most, if not all, of our training events with our students.
And then it was time to roll out of a moving boat. It goes against every single thing you're taught to do when on a boat, but it was actually so much fun.
Now we just gotta swim over to the beach. We're trying to be stealth and sneak on.
I was then rescued from the beach and very embarrassingly pulled back onto the boat. Then we were on to phase 2.
Call it BLS, which is a beach landing site. So we're going to take these boats, we're going to ram them straight onto the beach, and that's how we do a quick infill.
Yeah! Nice! Yeah! 5.
That was so insane. I'm gonna do that every single day of my life.
Made it to the beach. What happens now?
Yes, we did. All right, so we got the boats to the beaches, so that means all the team is on shore. We're gonna have soldiers out already secured the beach. So now we're gonna have personnel either picking the boats up and bringing them up to a hide site or turning the boats around so they're facing out to sea. So that way, if we need to make a quick extract, you can easily just jump in, turn the motors on, and be out. Sometimes we do this with students, and because it's a schoolhouse, if they make mistakes, we'll bring them onto the beach, roll them around in the sand, have them carry each other, and have some good exercises on the beach, and do some saltwater appreciation drills.
As we wrapped up day 2, I was left with so much appreciation that people are able to take their passions and hobbies and put them towards such an impactful career in the Army, which leads us straight into the 3rd and final day, the day we get to go scuba diving with the Army.
So Sergeant Shackford has been our demonstrator here. He's showing us that the gear we wear, he's wearing the Eiger, which can be inflated as a buoyancy device, buoyancy compensator. It can also have ballistic plates and other military attachment points. Typically we'll have our students attach their rifles on the right side. The rebreather rig itself is a LAR 5 and it has a breathing loop, exhalation hose, and an inhalation hose. So what happens is he breathes through it. When he opens the mouthpiece, he's able to open the breathing loop. His air will go into a canister, which then will filter it through, it's almost like, it looks like kitty litter almost. It's a CO2 scrubber. And then it recycles it back into his airway, and then he can breathe that. Typically he can be subsurface at about 4 hours on that one scrubber and this one tank here. But this is pure O2, pure 100% oxygen. That being said, his depth cannot exceed 20 feet. This gives us an infill platform that is less detectable because there are no bubbles coming out of him, which is why we call it a closed circuit system. Can you inhale? Can you inhale now? Can you exhale? How about now? Okay, drop it. Checking his attachment points, making sure nothing is fraying or breaking. Now these Eigers have been through a lot. These rigs, basically every dive class go through hundreds of dives almost. So making sure his weight belt's on properly with the right hand quick release. Go ahead and turn. Everything we do during the day, we're gonna do again at night. Go ahead and turn. Fins. Checking the attachment points on the fins, checking his watch, his depth gauge, make sure that's reset, his dive tool.
Before we hit the ocean, we first went back to the pool and did a few safety drills as well as a rescue diver drill. And once we completed that, we started a brief on our first dive for today. This event is a navigational dive. They dropped us in the middle of the bay and gave us an endpoint that was back along the coastline. My job was to point the compass at the endpoint, drop down, and to keep the compass pointed at the right spot while my dive buddy steers me to make sure I don't run into anything. It took about 30 minutes to make it back to the coastline, and while I wasn't exactly at the right spot, I was only a few feet off, and by far made it the closest. Just a navigational dive, and guess what? I came in first place. Not that it was a race, but I was by far the closest to the end point, so I'm feeling pretty good about myself. We moved our gear over to the next boat, and it was time to head out for the open water dive. After a long 3 days of seeing what it's like to be at the Special Forces Underwater Operations School, we were able to combine all the skills we learned from each day into this one last dive.
I just wanted to pass off, this is our company coin. It's a big tradition inside Special Forces, but thank you so much for coming out.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
How amazing.
And so it just became a tradition, passing coins from different unit to unit, and then what you do is if you slap your coin coin on the table. If you have the lowest ranking, you have to buy beers for everybody. So you slap it down, everyone pulls out their best coin. So assuredly you will be buying drinks for everybody. It doesn't get much lower than that.
Sounds good.
At least it'll be the coolest looking coin on the table.
No, this is incredible.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
What an
thank you.
experience.
Yeah, good. Awesome.
Thank
Thank you so much.
Day 3, we just finished off our last dive. It has been quite the experience. How do you think all of us did together?
I think you guys did very well. I was happy to have you guys come out. I can tell you guys put a lot of effort into preparing to be out here. And you specifically crushing the push-ups. Plank was no problem. Pull-ups and the run. And then obviously all the pool events, and then going into the boat operations. You carrying our Zodiac boats all the way over here by yourself, completely underneath it. So that's pretty impressive. And then finishing off with the dive. So yeah, it was a great opportunity. I'm glad you guys came out, and you know, we're serious, but we can have fun at the same time.
Yeah, it's been such an incredible, eye-opening experience. You know, I've been scuba diving most of my life, and to see that there is these incredible opportunities in the Army to do what you're passionate about, your hobbies, and have this collaborative effort of teamwork. Truly one of the most amazing experiences of my life. So I'm just so grateful to have gotten a very, very small glimpse into what you guys do.
It could not have been a more beautiful ending to wrap up 3 days that challenged me yet strengthened me in ways that I never thought possible. If you're interested in finding out more about how you can be all you can be, go to goarmy.com, and thank you so much to Go Army for sponsoring this video.